Hey guys, so I thought I would share real briefly how I do math homework. Generally speaking, most of my math learning takes place outside of the classroom. If I have to choose between listening to my instructor and understand what they're actually saying or writing down everything that they write on the board, then I usually choose writing it on the board almost all the time. And I imagine that having to choose between one or the other is pretty common, especially in higher education with the seemingly constant language barriers that exist. The amount of time I spend on homework varies quite a bit, mostly on volume and difficulty, like most people, but generally speaking, it takes a long time for me just because of the process I've made for myself and also just because I'm a slow math learner. So generally, I'll start just like this. I'll have work paper that I'm, writing down my problems and answers. I'll have a page for taking notes. I'll have the textbook in whatever form that might be. So for Calc 3, I have a textbook. For linear algebra, I have a digital textbook. I also have my class notes that I take in class. And then I have my homemade, oh, you cannot see those. And then I have my homemade reference sheets that I make. So you can see how it gets pretty cluttered, especially on my desk, which isn't very deep, but try to do the best with what I got. I'll usually start just by flipping through the my class notes, and if that suffices, then I'll simply use that to work on my homework problems. If it doesn't suffice, which it almost never does, then at that point I'll turn to my textbook and read the 2 or 3 pages that the textbook is going to have. And almost always, especially in math, textbook reading is pretty painful, but sometimes it is fruitful. So I go ahead and do it anyways. If my notes and my textbook are insufficient, then at that point I turn to YouTube and or Google. I watch a lot of Patrick JMT, Professor Leonard, and 3 Blue 1 Brown. I think those 3 combined, I get most of my answers that I need, and most of the moments where the light bulb flicks on is after I've Googled something and watched it online. So if I'm going through my textbook or YouTube and I find something new that I don't have in my class notes that I took in class, then I'm gonna write that down on a separate piece of paper. And I'm going to accumulate those while I go through the process of doing my homework. Once I have all those, I'm not gonna add it to my class notes because that just makes it a little more muddled than that needs to be, because that's already kind of haphazard as it is. What I'll do with all those notes is I'll compile them all so that it's more organized, has a bit better flow, better handwriting, penmanship, so I can actually read it at a later time. And then once I have that figured out, that will serve as a reference sheet that'll go in my reference folder. So I have them, if I can get this, got them by subject here, Calc 1, Calc 2, have it open to Calc 3, I have linear algebra here. And I've made a video where I talked about making my reference sheets before, but I'll go ahead and mention it again. It's really nothing crazy other than just, a compilation of what I find on the internet, what I find out of the textbook, and stuff out of my in-class notes that I feel warrants keeping. So I'll put it all on the same page. I'll put it in an order or an organization that makes the most sense to me. And I'll try and not only have examples in here so that I can remember how to work things out as opposed to, just definitions or equations and stuff like that. I'll also try to boil stuff down and put it in my own words so that rather than reading a really complex theorem that makes your brain want to melt, I can see something in my own words that's very simply stated, and then I can say, oh, that's right, and then go from there, more complex if I need it. So making this aids in my retention of the knowledge, but it's also nice to have to refer back to when it comes exam time or finals time. And so when it comes time to study for finals, rather than having to have the internet, my textbook, and my class notes, I can take this one folder, which is just a regular old 1-inch folder. I can take it wherever I want to go. If I want to go sit in the exam room before exams, if I want to go to Starbucks, have a coffee and do this, it's literally all that I need. And it's obviously serves as a good reference material for when I want to look back on previous classes that I made for. I found myself doing that all the time for Calc 2. So this whole process ends up costing me a large amount of time, but I don't mind because 1, I know that I need it, and 2, I enjoy it. I mean, math's my major, so if I don't enjoy it, I'm probably in the wrong place. And a lot of people will tell you that just as a baseline, you should spend as much time studying and or doing homework as you spend in class. And while I think that's a good baseline, individual needs are going to vary quite a bit. but I think it's a good place to start, especially if your classes are prerequisites for more important ones, or if your classes are major specific. So hopefully this was of some help to you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.